All right, let's move on to some stock up and stock down for this Ohio State team after 6 weeks, 5 games. Obviously they had the off week. So I'm gonna go stock up, stock down, stock up, stock down. Go in that order. So the first stock up that I have is gonna be an obvious one, and it's for Josh Proctor. Josh Proctor has been a beast this year. Honestly, if he keeps playing at the way that he's playing right now, he's going to be in contention for like the Thorpe Award. He's been that good, and he's been solid in run support. He's been solid in coverage. I wish I had the graphic up. I seen a thing earlier talking about Josh Proctor in coverage this year. I think he's only gave up like one catch. Obviously, he has one interception, one touchdown, multiple pass breakups. Again, for a guy who I'd say most people, including myself, probably wrote him off and thought that he was not gonna ever play here after because he's like a 6 year guy. I always knew that he had the athleticism to do it, but obviously there was something that was holding him back. And it seems like they were able to fix that. Perry Eliano, again, give you your flowers because Proctor's looked really good this year, and he's one of those guys that's a game changer. He's one of those freak athletes that I was just talking about, like a CJ Hicks. Um, Again, those types of guys change games, and Josh Proctor definitely changed the game against Maryland because Ohio State probably wasn't going to score. They definitely were not going to score a touchdown, but they may not have scored at all in the first half, and they could have been down like freaking 20-0 or 20-3 if he doesn't get a pick six. So huge stock up for him. And then a stock down. This is kind of one we just talked about, but Ohio State's linebackers, stock down for them. I think that as a linebacker, you have to be able to do multiple things. You have to be able to be aggressive. You also have to be able to read and react what they're being asked to do now. And I expected them to be really good this year after having a really good year last year, and then just having that more development and more time in the defense. But I don't necessarily think that they've been better. So I say stock down for the linebackers, especially after the last 2 games that they had. And then moving back to a stock up, my stock up is going to go to Travion Henderson. And this is coming after a week that he didn't play. But him not playing, I think, had a huge impact on what Ohio State's run game capabilities were. And I think that it also impacts the run scheme that they do when you don't have a guy like him out there because he creates a lot of issues where if you let him get to the second level, it might be gone. Chip has that in him, but hasn't shown it much this year. And then obviously Mayan Williams is kind of your bruiser back. But I think that not having Travion Henderson out there had a big impact on Ohio State's run game this week. And I think that it just kind of proved that he is a huge impact, he has a vital impact on this offense and what it's capable of. And when I talk about this, I always like to go back to the Notre Dame game. Travion Henderson in that game was getting the extra yards when he needed to. And then if you look back at that game, if he doesn't bust that one play, obviously you can't take plays away. But if he doesn't bust that one play for a touchdown, what does that game look like? Does Ohio State score on that drive? Because they didn't score on any other drive the rest of the game except for the very last one. So I would say no, probably not. So if that doesn't happen, then Ohio State loses that game 14-3. I could not imagine what social media would look like if Ohio State lost the game 14-3 to Notre Dame. So now this is actually a good transition because if Ohio State had lost that game 14-3, the next guy that I'm talking about probably would not be in the position he's in anymore. So stock down for me on Kyle McCord. The reason I say stock down is coming into the year, I was not super stoked about like Kyle McCord. I was hoping that he would be better than he is. However, he kind of started off bad and then had a game against like Western Kentucky where I was like, okay, I can see it. Some of it's there. He's looking decent. He's getting more comfortable. He's named the starter now. He goes out against Notre Dame, and honestly, I think that he had a bad game. I know that he finished the game off with the game-winning drive, but in that same drive, he also threw up 2 balls straight to defenders that could have been intercepted. And then you come into this game, and the first half was terrible. The second half was like decent until like the late fourth quarter, and then they just had guys running wide open downfield. They were scheming them up at that point. And to his credit, he was hitting those guys, and he made the one throw to Marv on the sideline that was a dime. So whatever, to his credit there. But overall, I think that he's a little too shaky in the pocket, and he's not seeing the field well, and he can't make every single throw, or at least consistently. So I have stock down on Kyle McCord right now. I hope to see that go up as the year goes on because honestly, if it doesn't, Ohio State's going to be in a tough spot. So. All right, and then the next one, I two more here. So one more stock up, one more stock down. One more. The next stock up I have is Ohio State's defensive ends. This is a subject that's been a hot subject all year. People have been saying that they're not very good, they're not playing well. Larry Johnson's not doing what he's supposed to do, and I've been on the opposite fence of that. That they've been doing what they're asked to do, and they've been doing a hell of a job in run support, which it can't be underestimated, especially when you're playing teams that are just not great passing teams. You know, you're not if you don't have a great passing team, they're not going to drop back to pass a ton. And then they played against a team that was better at passing this week, and they were wreaking havoc on them. Kenyatta Jackson drew a hold. JTT had I don't know how many pressures, but I know he had one sack. He was in Tualia's face all day, and he was kind of shutting down half of their run game by crashing down the line when they were doing those like RPOs or zone reads or whatever. So yeah, again, stock up for the defensive ends. I didn't see Jack Sawyer much or do much in this game against Maryland, but you look at the other guys that came in, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, and they both looked really good. They looked twitchy. So stock up for that unit, and I think that they're going to, as the year goes on, I think that they're going to become more and more impactful, and you're going to see that Ohio State does have one of the best defensive lines in college football because we already know that those interior guys are just dominant, and they have been all year. All right, so moving on to the last stock that I have here, stock down for Ohio State's personnel choices. So obviously we already talked about the defensive choices about having CJ Hicks out there, or even some of the choices on the defensive line. However, what I'm talking about when I say personnel choices is mostly on offense, and I don't know why we go into certain games and the plan is to run a ton of 12 personnel. I don't get it. Like we're supposed to have all these great wide receivers at Ohio State. We have the best wide receiver coach in the country, and yet we're going to take one of those guys off the field and we're going to put G. Scott out there. Again, I don't have any personal issue with G. Scott. I think that he's done phenomenal this year. He's done what he's been asked to do. This game wasn't his best game at Maryland. However, he's been a good blocker all year, and I would assume that he's good in the receiving game because he was a wide receiver coming out of high school, and they don't really throw him the ball much. But again, I don't like the fact that we are running so much 12 personnel just simply because you're bringing an extra man in the box. We're trying to run out of that, and then when we're throwing the ball, we don't have the best players that are like the best unit on our team. We don't have them on the field, so it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I hope that they'll run more of that like 11 personnel and have the 3 wide receivers out there. Even running out of that, I think, is a better option, just simply because you're not bringing so many guys in the box. And right now, the offensive line is struggling with communication and they're struggling with working as a unit. The worst thing that you could do for an offensive line that is not really working as a unit well is to bring more guys in the box and complicate things more. So I think if they spread that out a little bit and use that as the use that as a way to help them run the ball, and then also having those wide receivers out there as threats is again, I just think that's the best thing that they can do. I'm not saying do that all the time. Obviously, mix in a 12 personnel every now and then. But for me, it felt like we were in 12 personnel way more than we were in 11 personnel in this Maryland game. And if you think back to the last game that it felt like that, that would have been the Indiana game where Ohio State's offense really was sluggish and not good. So again, I think that that's not our best personnel set. I hope that Ryan Day sees that. Now I do like. I know this is a stock down, but I do like the 2 back personnel. I think it's like 21, where this time they had Chip and Mayan out there. Usually they run it with Chip and Trey. I do like that, and I even like the little running back jet sweep because you can do a lot of things off of that. If you run that once, then you could fake that, have the quarterback roll out, or you could fake that, hand it off to the running back that's in the backfield. So I like that, but again, the 12 personnel crap. I don't know why. I don't know why Ryan Day wants to do it so bad, but it's just not working. I don't think that we have the guys to do it. Like I don't think that I don't think that G Scott is one of the best 11 offensive players that we have. Put it that way. Um, I like him. I like everything about that kid, but again, I don't think he's one of the best 11 offensive players we have. And when you're putting him on the field, and he honestly he's never been a threat to catch a ball downfield. So again, you're just creating all kinds of chaos, and I feel like it's unnecessary. All right, so that was it for my stocks. Again, just some good and some bad, and that was kind of for the whole season so far. I want to revisit that a little bit later in the year and kind of see, maybe in a couple weeks actually after like the Penn State game, and kind of see if any of these stocks change, and kind of what the temperature of the team is at that point.